Devotion, Chapter 1. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvisesha Shunivari Paschachadesa Tarane. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 29th chapter, verse 10 and 12 and 13, Srila Kapila Dev, while instructing his mother, has given the following characteristics of pure devotional service. My dear mother, those who are pure devotees, my pure devotees, who have no desire for material benefit or philosophical speculation, have their minds so much engaged in my service that they are never interested in asking me for anything except to be engaged in that service. They do not even beg to live in my abode with me. There are 5 kinds of liberation, namely to become one with the Lord, to live with the Supreme Lord on the same planet, to have the same features as the Lord, to enjoy the same opulence as the Lord, and to live as a companion of the Lord. A devotee, what to speak of rejecting material sense gratification, does not even want any of these 5 kinds of liberation. He is satisfied simply by discharging devotional loving service to the Lord. That is the characteristic of pure devotion. In the above statement by Kapila Dev from Srimad Bhagavatam, the actual position of a pure devotee is described, and the primary characteristics of devotional service are also defined. Further characteristics of devotional service are described by Rupa Goswami with evidences from different scriptures. He states that there are 6 characteristics of pure devotional service, which are as follows. 1. Pure devotional service brings immediate relief from all kinds of material distress. Pure devotional service is the beginning of all auspiciousness. Pure devotional service automatically puts one in transcendental pleasure. Pure devotional service is rarely achieved. Those in pure devotional service deride even the concept of liberation. Pure devotional service is the only means to attract Krishna. Krishna is all attractive, but our pure devotional service attracts even him. This means that pure devotional service is even transcendently stronger than Krishna himself, because it is Krishna's internal potency. Now we get the explanation of these different points. First is relief from material distress. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that one should surrender unto him, giving up all other engagements. The Lord also gives his word that he will protect surrendered souls from the reactions of all sinful activities. Srila Rupa Goswami says that the distresses from sinful activities are both due to the sins themselves and to sins committed in our past lives. Generally, one commits sinful activities due to ignorance, but ignorance is no excuse for evading the reaction of sinful activities. Sinful activities are of 2 kinds, those of which are mature and those which are not mature. The sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment are called mature. The many sinful activities stored within us for which we have not yet suffered are considered immature. For example, a man may have committed criminal acts but not yet been arrested for them. Now, as soon as he is detected, arrest is awaiting him. Similarly, for some of our sinful activities, we are awaiting distresses in the future, and for others, which are mature, we are suffering at the present moment. In this way, there is a chain of sinful activities and their concomitant distresses, and the conditioned soul is suffering life after life due to these sins. He is suffering in the present life, the result of sinful activities from his past life, and he is meanwhile creating further sufferings for his future life. Mature sinful activities are exhibited if one is suffering from some chronic disease, if one is suffering from legal implication, if one is born in a low and degraded family, or if one is uneducated or very ugly. There are many results of past sinful activities for which we are suffering at the present moment, and we may be suffering in the future due to these reactions to sinful deeds. But all of these reactions to sinful deeds can immediately be stopped if we take to Krishna consciousness. As evidence for this, Rupa Goswami quotes from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 14th chapter, verse 19. This verse is in connection with Lord Krishna's instruction to Uddhava, where he says, "My dear Uddhava, devotional service unto me is just like a blazing fire that can burn into ashes unlimited fuel supplied to it." The purport is that as a blazing fire can burn any amount of fuel to ashes, so devotional service to the Lord in Krishna consciousness can burn up all the fuel of sinful activities. For example, in the Gita, Arjuna thought that fighting was a sinful activity, but Krishna engaged him on the battlefield under his order, and so the fighting became devotional service. Therefore, Arjuna was not subjected to any sinful reaction. Srila Rupa Goswami quotes another verse from the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 33rd chapter, verse 6, in which Devahuti addresses her son, Kapila Dev, and says, "My dear Lord, there are 9 different kinds of devotional service, beginning from hearing and chanting. Anyone who hears about your pastimes, who chants about your glories, who offers you obeisances, and who thinks of you, and in this way executes any of the 9 kinds of devotional service, even if he is born in a family of dog-eaters, the lowest grade of mankind, he becomes immediately qualified to perform devotional service. As such, how is it possible that anyone actually engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness has not become purified? It is not possible. One who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and devotional service has without doubt become freed from all contaminations of material sinful activities. Devotional service, therefore, has the power to actually nullify all kinds of reactions to sinful deeds. A devotee is nevertheless always alert not to commit any sinful activities. This is his specific qualification as a devotee. This Srimad Bhagavatam states that by performing devotional service, a person who was born even in a family of dog-eaters may become eligible to take part in the performance of ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Vedas. It is implicit in this statement that a person born in a family of dog-eaters is generally not fit for performing yajna or sacrifice. The priestly caste in charge of performing these ritualistic activities recommended in the Vedas is called the Brahmana order. Unless one is a Brahmana, he cannot perform these ceremonies. A person born in a Brahmana family or in a family of dog-eaters due to past activities, if a person is born in a family of dog-eaters, it means that his past activities were all sinful. But even if such a person takes to the path of devotional service and begins to chant the holy names of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, he is at once fit to perform the ritualistic ceremonies. This means that his sinful reactions have immediately become neutralized. It is stated in the Padma Purana that there are 4 kinds of effects due to sinful activities, which are listed as follows. 1, the effect which is not yet fructified. 2, the effect which is lying as seed. 3, the effect which is already mature. And 4, the effect which is almost mature. It is also stated that all these 4 effects have become immediately vanquished for those who surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and become engaged in his devotional service in full Krishna consciousness. Those effects described as almost mature refer to the distress from which one is suffering at present, and the effects lying as seed are in the core of the heart, where there is a certain stock of sinful desires which are like seeds. The Sanskrit word kutam means they are almost ready to produce the seed, or the effect of the seed. An immature effect refers to the case where the seedling has not begun. From this statement of Padma Purana, it is understood that material contamination is very subtle. Its beginning, its fruition and results, and how one suffers such results in the form of distress are part of a great chain. When one catches some disease, it is often very difficult to ascertain the cause of the disease, where it originated and how it is maturing. The suffering of a disease, however, does not appear all of a sudden. It actually takes time, and as in the medical field, for precaution's sake, the doctor injects a vaccination to prevent the growing of contamination. The practical interjection to stop all the fructifications of the seeds in our sinful activities is simply engagement in Krishna consciousness. In this connection, Shukadeva Goswami speaks in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, verse 17, about the story of Jamil, who began his life as a fine and dutiful brahmana, but in his young manhood became wholly corrupted by a prostitute. At the end of his wicked life, just by calling the name Narayan, Krishna, he was saved despite so much sin. Sukadev points out that austerity, charity, and performance of ritualistic ceremonies for counteracting sinful activities are recommended processes, but that by performing them, one cannot remove the sinful desire seed from the heart, as was the case with the Jamil in his youth. This sinful desire seed can be removed only by achieving Krishna consciousness, and this can be accomplished very easily by chanting the Maha Mantra or Hare Krishna mantra, as recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In other words, unless one adopts a path of devotional service, he cannot be 100% clean from all the reactions of sinful activities. By performing ritualistic Vedic activities, by giving money in charity, and by undergoing austerity, one can temporarily become free from the reactions of sinful activities. But at that next moment, he must again become engaged in sinful activities. For example, a person suffering from venereal disease on account of excessive indulgence in sex life has to undergo some severe pain and medical treatment, and then he is cured for the time being. But because he has not yet been able to remove the sex desire from his heart, he must again indulge in the same thing and become a victim of the same disease. So medical treatment may give temporary relief from the distress of such venereal disease, but unless one is trained to understand that sex life is abominable, it is impossible to be saved from such repeated distress. Similarly, the ritualistic performances, charity and austerity, which are recommended in the Vedas, may temporarily stop one from acting in sinful ways, but as long as the heart is not clear, one will have to repeat sinful activities again and again. Another example given in Srimad Bhagavatam concerns the elephant who enters into a lake and takes a bath very seriously, cleansing the body thoroughly. Then as soon as he comes onto shore, he again takes some dust from the earth and throws it over his body. Similarly, a person who is not trained in Krishna consciousness cannot become completely free from the desire for sinful activities. Neither the yoga process nor philosophical speculations nor fruitive activities can save one from the seeds of sinful desires. Only by being engaged in devotional service can this be done. There's another evidence in the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 22nd chapter, verse 39, where Sanat Kumar says, "My dear Lord, my dear King, the false ego of a human being is so strong that it keeps him in material existence as if tied by a strong rope. Only the devotees can cut off the knot of that strong rope very easily by engaging in Krishna consciousness. Others who are not in Krishna consciousness but are trying to become great mystics or great ritual performers cannot advance like the devotees. Therefore, it is a duty of everyone to engage himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness in order to be freed from the tight knot of the false ego and engagement in material activities. This tight knot of the false ego is due to ignorance. As long as one is ignorant about his identity, he is sure to act wrongly and therefore become entangled in material contamination. This ignorance of factual knowledge can also be dissipated by Krishna consciousness. as is confirmed in the Padma Purana as follows. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the highest enlightenment, and when such enlightenment is there, it is just like a blazing forest fire, killing all the inauspicious snakes of desire. The example is being given in this connection that when there is a forest fire, the extensive blazing automatically kills all the snakes in the forest. There are many, many snakes on the ground of the forest, and when a fire takes place, it burns the dried foliage, and the snakes are immediately attacked. Animals who have 4 legs can flee from the fire, or at least try to flee, but the snakes are immediately killed. Similarly, the blazing fire of Krishna consciousness is so strong that the snakes of ignorance are immediately killed. Next is Krishna consciousness is all auspicious. Srila Rupa Goswami has given a definition of auspiciousness. He says that actual auspiciousness means welfare activities for all the people of the world. At the present moment, groups of people are engaged in welfare activities in terms of society, community, or nation. There's even an attempt in the form of United Nations for world help activity. But due to the shortcomings of limited national activities, such a general mass welfare program for the whole world is not practically possible. The Krishna conscious movement, however, is so nice that it can render the highest benefit to the entire human society. Everyone can be attracted by this movement, and everyone can feel the result. Therefore, Rupa Goswami and other learned scholars agree that a broad propaganda program for the Krishna conscious movement of devotional service all over the world is the highest humanitarian activity. How the Krishna conscious movement can attract the attention of the whole world, and how each and every man can feel pleasure in this Krishna consciousness is stated in the Padma Purana as follows. A person who is engaged in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is to be understood to be doing the best service to the whole world and to be pleasing everyone in the world. In addition to human society, he is pleasing even the trees and animals because they also become attracted by such a movement. So I know Bhagavad Gita says a few places, always engage in the welfare of all living entities. And here we get to what that is. A practical example was shown by Lord Chaitanya when he was traveling through the forest of Jharkhand in central India for spreading his Sankirtan movement. The tigers, the elephants, and deer, and all the other wild animals joined him and were participating in their own ways by dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. Furthermore, a person engaged in Krishna consciousness, acting in devotional service, can develop all the good qualities that are generally found in the demigods. It is said by Shukadeva Goswami in the 5th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 18th chapter, verse 12. My dear king, persons who have unflinching faith in Krishna and are without any duplicity can develop all the good qualities of the demigods. On account of a devotee's high grade of Krishna consciousness, even the demigods like to live with him. Therefore, it can be understood that the qualities of the demigods are developed within his body. On the other hand, a person who is not in Krishna consciousness has no good qualities. He may be highly educated in the academic point of view, but in the actual field of his activities, he can be seen to be baser than the animals. Even though a person is highly educated, academically, if he cannot go beyond the sphere of mental activities, then he is sure to perform only material activities and thus remain impure. There are so many persons in the modern world who have been highly educated in the materialistic universities, but it is seen that they cannot take up the movement of Krishna consciousness and develop the high qualities of the demigods. For example, a Krishna conscious boy, even if he's not very well educated by the university standard, can immediately give up all illicit sex, gambling, meat eating, and intoxication, whereas those who are not in Krishna consciousness, although very highly educated, are often drunkards, meat eaters, sex mongers, and gamblers. These are practical proofs of how a Krishna conscious person becomes highly developed in good qualities, whereas a person who is not in Krishna consciousness cannot do so. We experience that even a young boy in Krishna consciousness is unattached to cinema, nightclub, naked dance shows, restaurants, liquor shops, etc. He becomes completely free. He saves his valuable time from being extravagantly spent in the way of smoking, drinking, attending theater, and dancing. One who is not in Krishna consciousness usually cannot sit silently even for half an hour. The yoga system teaches that if you become silent, you will realize you are God. This system may be all right for materialistic persons, but how long are they able to keep themselves silent? Artificially, they may sit down for so-called meditation, but immediately after their yogic performance, they will engage themselves again in such activities as illicit sex life, gambling, meat eating, and many other nonsensical things. But a Krishna-conscious person gradually elevates himself without endeavoring for this so-called silent meditation. Simply because he engaged in Krishna consciousness, he automatically gives up all this nonsense and develops a high character. One develops the highest character by becoming a pure devotee of Krishna. The conclusion is that one can truly have good qualities. The conclusion is that no one can truly have good qualities if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. So I'm going to stop there and continue sometime soon. So thank anybody who joined in and anyone who might join in the future. And of course we're hoping to inspire devotees to read these books more, especially Nectar Devotion, because all the questions we get, everything is answered very, very clearly, concisely, and perfectly in this book. Shrimad Nectar Devotion Ki Jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari.